What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Invest Iowa. Today, I have Andy Algreen that is gonna walk us through a live and flip. Before you skip this video, can you please subscribe? This is about real estate. Yeah. You can you please subscribe? Anyways, thank you for joining us, Andy. It's good to have you here. I want you to walk us through your experiences doing a live and flip and all the information that you have with that cool spreadsheet of yours that you have here for us, ready to be presented with basically all the information that you need in order to keep your expenses and keep track of everything that you need to do your flip. Yep. Or your property, to manage your property. It's in here. So we're gonna walk through what that looks like. But thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me.
Yeah. So tell us who you are and why should we listen to you?
Yep. My name's Andy Algreen, like you said. Agent for Keller Williams here in Des Moines, and also an investor. Like you said, obviously doing a live and flip. Live over in Monroe, Iowa, and I also own a duplex over in the Beaverdale area with a partner.
Nice. Well, I really want us to get hands-on into the, okay, it's called renovation expenses?
Yep, just called it renovation expenses.
Okay.
I guess a little backstory real quick, unless you want to go into the facts
No,
first.
go for it.
Okay. So I didn't really have any experience in real estate until like 2.5 years ago when I started working at I was working at a job that I didn't really like that much, so I started working part-time at an apartment complex, and I essentially just got to know the owner of that apartment complex, and he introduced me to Bigger Pockets, real estate investing, and he basically just told me to go listen to their podcast. And so I listened to it, and I just got hooked immediately right when I started listening to it. I don't remember exactly what episode it was, but so yeah, I did that. And then we actually partnered up on this deal, and then he recommended I house hack because at the time I was currently living with my parents, and my girlfriend or fiance at the time was living with her parents. So then I was like, okay, we need a house hack. We need to buy a duplex and live on the other side. Well, she didn't really want to do that, which is fine. So then we kind of life progressed, and she got a job working in Oskaloosa, and I was working in Des Moines. So we found a middle ground in Prairie City. Monroe is where we were looking for a house, and there aren't many duplexes or anything like that to live in, and she didn't want to do that. So then I kept researching on how we could essentially do a house hack and try to make some money that way through real estate. And found out that you could do a live and flip as well. Obviously, I was still kind of newer in the real estate space, so you could do a live and flip. So essentially, we found a house that was your grandma-style house, wasn't renovated at all, hadn't been touched. It was built in the 70s. Bought it for a decent price, and yeah, now we're living in it. And over the past year and a half, we've just been turning things over as we've been living in it.
Okay, live and flip. Define live and flip to me.
Essentially, you are living in the property while you're renovating it.
And you're planning on selling this property later on?
Yeah, our plan is to sell it after 2 years, because after 2 years, you don't have to pay the capital gains tax, assuming you make a profit on it after you sell it.
Ideally, you should be able to, right?
Ideally, you should be able to, yes.
Will it still be considered a live and flip if you refinanced?
Yeah, you could take the equity out of it and use that money and refinance the property and purchase another property. You could do that for sure.
Will that still be considered a live and flip, or will that categorize itself into something else?
I would consider it a live and flip still.
Live and flip. Okay. Yeah. What are the advantages of doing a live and flip?
First thing would be you get to it's basically instant equity in the house. So as you're turning things over, you're creating equity in the property. So that'd be one huge advantage. Another advantage would be you get to make things the way you want them to be, and it's your own house, and you can style it however you want to style it. Now, I guess kind of a caveat to that is if you know you're going to sell it, our plan is to sell it within the 2 years, so making sure that like the design aspect of it is still kind of current with the market. So like our house, we did like just classic gray on the wall, white trim, basically just gray and white to keep it current, I guess. My wife's kind of the designer, and she picked out all that stuff, and I was the hands-on guy. I was the worker. She told me what to do.
What skills do you need to do a live and flip?
You gotta be handy. If you're not handy, you can always learn, because I didn't know how to do like half the stuff that I did. And just watch a lot of YouTube. If you don't know how to do something, just go on YouTube and you can 99% of the time figure it out.
Okay, when you say the things that I learned how to do on YouTube, I guess where do you draw the line between something that you should never touch and something that you should learn? You know what I mean? I don't think electrical is something that there's a certain degree of things in the electrical field that you should not be doing, right? Because they put you at risk. Where do you draw that line?
Yeah, for me, just replacing light switches and outlets is pretty simple. That can be learned pretty easy on YouTube. Replacing a whole panel box, you probably would. We didn't have to do that. Our electrical box was thankfully updated and had the correct wiring and was up to code. So we didn't have to hire that out to be fixed or anything. That you might want to hire out. Something we did hire out was we had anchors and braces put up on the walls in our basement. And we might have been able to do that ourselves, but it's kind of that cost. It's kind of just weighing your time and the cost on it, I guess, because it would have taken us probably way too long to complete that project, and they did it in a day.
Wow, a long time. So what are you doing exactly for that live and flip? Is it just mostly cosmetics?
Yeah, majority. We had to take out a really small wall in the living room, and then like another small little wall in our bathroom. But majority of it was just cosmetic type stuff.
What is it about the house that you're flipping that is giving you the greatest return?
Honestly, just the knowledge is one big aspect of it. I know how to do a lot more things now than what I did beforehand, which I think is really valuable. And then I can, if anyone asks me a question on how to put down LVP flooring, or I put a bathroom vent in our bathroom, and didn't really know how to do that. But if anyone has like questions or anything, I can help them out, or try to at least.
So is that knowledge that you're gaining while also being able to capitalize on creating the equity for the house?
Yep.
Gotcha. Okay. Can we now jump into what you design in order to keep track of how you are doing this live and flip?
Yep, for sure. So I do like to spend some time in Excel.
I can tell. That looks really good. I went to school for it and never quite got something as organized as you do.
But I basically just didn't really know where to start. You just started with an empty Excel sheet is where I like to start. But I essentially just divided it into different categories on what I thought they should be. And so I just have like a general expenses category. So these two things are two things that we had to do to the entire house. So we had to paint the entire house, and we had to put new flooring down in the entire house. So that's kind of those two things, and then essentially just keeping track of the expenses on what we did in the kitchen and dining room, and I just put those together. And then I got down pretty detailed, like even just the purchase of the light bulbs. Just because when we go to resell the house, I think it's something good to show a listing agent how detailed we were, because we did 95% of the work ourselves, and to be able to show this to a listing agent hopefully will give us some credibility when we do go to sell it.
That makes sense.
Then split up in the bathroom, and then our house is just a ranch, so I did the living room, bedroom, hallway together, and then basement, and then outside, which we haven't done much to the outside. But
And just to clarify, the reason why nothing here has numbers is just because this is a copy of the actual document where you have actually all the numbers, right?
correct, yep.
Yeah. So, what else can you tell me about what are some experiences that you're going through while going through this live and flip?
The first 6 months of living there, I was pretty motivated to work on it. Mm-hmm. The first 3 months, I was extremely motivated because my wife and I were not living together at the time, and she essentially told me that once I get the flooring in is when she'll move in. So then I was pretty motivated to do that. And then we kind of hit the 6 month mark. I've kind of found that as time goes on, as you're doing a live and flip, my motivation has definitely decreased.
Is it because you're the only one working on it constantly?
Yeah, and it's just like there's always going to be something. There's always going to be a project. It's just kind of figuring out what's the right thing, figuring out where the right place to put your money is inside the house.
When you talk about where is it a good place to find your money, where's it a good place to put your money, what that's making me think is that you didn't know exactly what you were going to spend your money on at the beginning. So is that how that works? So before you see the potential, then you think about where you're going to spend your money, or?
Well, I was just very new to it when we bought our house, and I didn't really know exactly what I was doing or what upgrades we should be doing or should have done. But obviously now I know now that I've been in the industry for some time that kitchen and bathrooms is what's going to get you the most return on investment, is updating kitchen and bathroom.
Kitchen and bathrooms, why?
That is just what I've heard. I don't know exactly the rhyme or reason. It's just that's just what I've heard.
Kitchen and bathrooms.
Do
you think is there any reason for it?
There has to be. I don't know exactly what it is, but that's just what the agents in my office that I've talked to is the main two things are kitchen and bathrooms.
Kitchen.
So I'm happy we updated both of those.
Great. Good. How long until you sell?
Our plan is to sell this summer, sometime.
This summer.
Yep.
And now move more towards this side or more towards Oskaloosa?
Probably stay Monroe, Prairie City area.
So you're probably going to try to do the same?
We aren't sure yet.
Okay.
We aren't sure.
Okay. You'll figure out later on.
Yeah, it's still up in the air. Just because it is a decent amount of work. But yeah, it's still up in the air for right now.
Gotcha. Okay. Now let's take it now to your duplex. Mm-hmm. So you briefly talk about the relationship between the investor that you became friends with and yourself as a handyman. How does that relationship come across?
So I my sister actually started working at that apartment complex before I did, and she basically just asked me if I wanted to start working there, and I said yeah. And I met the owner the first day, and seemed like a really nice guy. And then I guess I did kind of get some handyman experiences there because that's kind of what I was doing, just painting and fixing random stuff, changing outlets and doing all that stuff.
Yep.
But I just had a decent amount of conversations with him at the apartment while we were there, and we just got to know each other. And he knew that I got very interested in real estate pretty quickly, and he basically saw that I was curious about real estate, knew I wanted to learn about it, and I think he felt like it could be a good opportunity for him to help me out, which is pretty cool because that doesn't happen a lot. So then I just basically eventually told him, yeah, I want to find something, find an investment property. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, but I just kind of told him I wanted to buy something. And then he, as I was kind of cultivating that relationship with him, he basically said he would go in on a deal with me.
That makes sense. That's as simple as that, right?
Yeah, it's
So
all,
it's more about where the people that you meet, not exactly what you do.
Yeah, I have learned pretty quickly it's all relationship based. A lot of life is relationship based.
So, okay, you two decide that, like, we're going to do this. You found the deal or he found the deal?
So he was previously working with an agent that he had bought a different investment property from, and I believe the agent brought the deal to Eric, and he said, I think this would be a good opportunity for us. I believe that's how it worked out.
That's how it worked out. So, what do you guys? What was the price for that duplex?
We paid $205 for it.
$205 for it.
Yep, and it was under rented. It wasn't at market rent, and it took us about a year to get it to market rent, and now it's performing pretty well.
And now that's passive income coming as cash flow. So I guess, how do you structure that deal? Did you bring any equity into any capital into the deal?
Yep. So I brought, I guess how we structured the deal was, I brought a little bit of capital to it, just to have a little bit of skin in the game, and then he brought majority of it, and then essentially he was going to be fairly hands-off, like not involved in property management, fixing things up and stuff like that, unless he wanted to be, because he's pretty handy too, and he just kind of likes doing that stuff. But for the most part, I am doing all the tenant management, communication, going there, fixing up stuff. Yeah.
And then, so in order for you to get that deal by yourself, would have been harder?
It would have been a lot harder for me to get that deal, especially at the time, because I just didn't have the money at the time. I probably, with the mindset I have now, I could have figured out how to get the money, but with the mindset I had back then, I wouldn't have known how to get the money.
So it was a first step into getting your first skin in the game.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, yep. And now that is performing, that is just bringing cash flow in form of passive income is the, I imagine the property is cash flowing, right?
Yep, it's cash flowing. Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of another part of the deal we structured is we are essentially building up a reserve bank. So in case, just for like capital expenditures. So if an AC goes out, furnace goes out, hot water, something like that.
You don't have to break your wallet in order to, hey, we have to split this.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. So we're currently still building that up.
That makes sense. And now for future projects, what are your expectations, or where are you looking at for deals here in Des Moines? Like, what's your next move?
Right now, I'm looking to find a single family home that is a minimum of 3 bedrooms, and my plan is to turn it into a short-term rental.
Into a short-term rental?
Yep.
Short-term rentals. What can you tell me about short-term rentals?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
So I own part of a company with 3 other guys in Des Moines. It's called Des Moines Short-Term Rentals, and we are essentially a hospitality management company that will manage your short-term rental for a fee. But it would essentially just be, you will essentially be hands-off in everything that's involved with managing the property, and we would take it over for you. But short-term rentals do very well in Des Moines, and I have yet to talk to someone that has done quote-unquote bad managing their own short-term rental, or someone that manages a short-term rental for someone else. They all seem to do pretty well.
Does it feel like people are coming to Des Moines because of vacation trips, or is it more like visiting family? Like, what are the stats? How can you back that up?
Yep. Majority of the time, especially during the winter time, it's not. So I was very seasonal. So right now it's January. You're going to expect to see the worst like out of the entire year. January, February timeframe are going to be the worst months for your short-term rental. And that's just something you have to expect going into it if you're looking to buy one. But I guess as far as the rental market and why are people coming here, majority of the time it's not for vacation. There's a lot of business travelers. A lot of people coming here for like different types of sporting events, like coming to Wells Fargo, or like coming to concerts at Wells Fargo. There are a decent amount of hospitals in the area, so you could have travel nurses or people just coming to, like if their family members in the hospital and they just need to come stay for a couple of days, for example, something like that.
In general, is it trending upwards or downwards? Every day are we getting more Airbnb rentals, or?
So so I guess short answer is yes. There are more short-term rentals. I guess if you look at the year-over-year data, and the website we use is called AirDNA as like our baseline to figure out like average daily rate, occupancy, and revenue. But they also show on there how many Airbnbs and VRBOs there are in Des Moines. And you can go in there and see year-over-year data. It shows that it's trending up still.
Trending up. What are your expectations for what do you expect Airbnb to do within the next 5 years? Or is that too far? Like, how far are you thinking into this project?
Like the project for myself, like my dad and I's house, or the short-term rental, Des Moines short-term
for the
rentals?
short-term rentals.
There's I guess there's two things. There's really there's not a whole lot of data to support if it's going to keep going up or if it's going to decline, in my opinion. And the second thing is, since it's still fairly new, there have been some laws that have came out about short-term rentals, and it's kind of local, depending on what city you're based in, if you can or cannot have short-term rentals. But most cities in Des Moines do allow short-term rentals, but that's just something you always have to be aware of and trying to keep that top of mind, because it could, laws can change. So one thing we do when we calculate our when we look at a property and we calculate essentially to see if the deal is going to work, we first look at long-term rents and see what those are, because if something happens in the future and you can't rent your property out as a short-term rental, we want to make sure it can rent long-term and still cash flow.
That makes sense. So there's different strategies to going into Airbnb, right? Do you do short-term rent? You do short-term rentals. You do long-term rentals. And then travel nurses, would they be considered like your mid-tier, like 3 to 6 months?
Yeah, so they would be like a midterm rental, I guess is how you could define it. And I guess our company doesn't manage anything over 28 days. So we manage it 28 days or less is how long is like what we manage for our company. So you have to be in our property 28 days or less. If it's more than that, we consider it a short-term rental, basically because of legality reasons. If it's over that, then I don't know where I was going with that.
There's a lot more that can get into if a person stays more than 28 days.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, if people wanted to know more about short-term rentals, or if they wanted to talk to you about real estate, maybe have some advice into a live and flip, how can they contact you? How can they get in touch with you?
Yep. Just reach out. Google me. I should be on Google. If you just Google my name, and I have a YouTube channel as well, just Andy Algreen.
That's where they find you,
I guess. Facebook, Instagram, all the social media sites.
Realtor for Keller Williams, right?
Yep, Keller Williams.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, if you find this content valuable and it has given you some sort of questions, feel free to leave them in the comment, and then I will make sure that I send them his way so he can make a video in response to that. I know that there's a lot of things that we haven't covered in detail, but it's just because you can't go too deep into these questions, into this type of answers. But thank you for making it this far in the video, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for coming, Andy.
Yep,
appreciate it, man.
Thank you.